Welcome back, Tulare fans. This video is about provisioning. First, let's discuss a little bit about what provisioning is. Tulare, by nature, is dynamic. So if you have this site, and he's talking to this site, and they're the only two talking, well then they'll scale bandwidth appropriately, and he'll give all his available bandwidth to this guy. And this vice versa. If this guy and this guy are the only ones talking, well then he'll scale all of the available bandwidth to talk to this guy. But what happens when both Tulares are trying to reach this third Tulare and they're filling the pipe with requests? So there's more data that's trying to go down this pipe than available pipe. How do we divvy out the bandwidth between the two sites? Well, that's where provisioning comes into play. This is the blueprint of how do we divide out exactly what we need data-wise to give it to each individual site. So let's get to the configuration, and then what we'll do is we'll go over an example there, and then I'll go over the options and show you, exactly what is configured and where, and then we'll do we'll have our own little exercise. All right, WAN link services. All right, so let's go over what you see right here. This is the internet link, and here's where some shares are set. So as you can see, this is the internet link that's going to Raleigh, and then it also goes to San Jose. The groups, or if you were going to divide them in a group by category, maybe all warehouse sites, or another type of sites, regional hubs. But here we just have one big group, default by nature. But let's talk about what options there are in here when we do choose to edit. All right. So you have WAN ingress and you have WAN egress, and you can always change the group. And we can see this minimum kbps. There is always a minimum kbps reserved. Right here it's 80K on the WAN link for each site we've got a conduit to. So what it is if you think about a race car at the Indy 500, they never start where their engines stop. They always rev the gas pedal a little bit, and that's what we're doing here. We're revving the gas pedal with 80K so we can scale that bandwidth fast and effectively. So there's 80K out of the total available. And now you can set a max if you want to say, hey, this is the maximum amount of bandwidth I won't go into that site, but by default it's no limit. And shares of group. So shares of group here are set 1000, 1000, and you can see the pie chart here. So that just means they're 50-50. If I wanted it, it's the same as if I set it 2000, 2000, or 100,000, 100,000. It's 50-50 scale, right? Now, if I was, let's say Raleigh was the NCN, and San Jose was just another site, right? The NCN is going to be more important than just Raleigh. I mean, just San Jose, right? I would probably want to scale the bandwidth to my NCN at a higher rate than I would to a third site. So when I set this to 2000, what this is essentially saying here, and I'm going to do the same thing over on WAN egress as well. What this essentially is saying is, now, do you see how my fare is, if everyone is trying to scale bandwidth at the same time, my fare rates have now changed, right? At a 2-to-1 ratio, so 2000, 1000. Everything just went to a 2-to-1 ratio, and there's 3000 total shares. And so if there's available bandwidth left over, and I have 3 sites or even more, I'm going to use it at this ratio to give bandwidth away. All right. So the big takeaway from here is your most important sites need to have your most shares, right? Because that's how we're going to divvy the bandwidth in times of need. It only matters in times of need. Okay. So let's do let's have just kind of think about this a little bit and say, well, what if we had a site here that didn't have a Tulare? Let's just say this site was an intranet site, and we needed to be able to provision that. How would we provision it? Well, I have something already set up over here at San Jose, and I have the default right? And you would have to think about, okay, well, and it's going to be set at the WAN link level. So some links can be, they can be differentiated. But I have intranet, which is for a non-Tulare site, and then we have Austin, and then Raleigh, which is the NCN, and this is at the San Jose side. And we could sit here, and what we could do is we could cost these differently using the shares, right? Well, maybe this here, the Raleigh is now 2,000, and the MPLS, I mean to Austin, I'm sorry, the conduit to Austin is 2,000, or actually that should be 1,000, and the intranet is 2,000, because being able to get to the other sites is also quite important. And then you can see the fair share breakdown of how it breaks down. And we'll need to add on our WAN egress as well. And that was 1,000, 2,000, and 2,000. And that's it. So enjoy your Tularing, and thank you for your time.